Hey, what's going on, guys? Ron Given here, back in another video. Today's episode, we are taking a quick look at Devastation Evoker. So first thing you got to understand about Devastation Evoker is they work off something called an essence system, and this is going to be something that is unique to Evokers. There's no other classes in the game that have this specific essence system, and you're going to be spending this on some of your more powerful abilities. Think of it very similar, such as like a soul shard system on a warlock. So we'll be generating and spending essence throughout our rotation. We'll kind of get back to this a little bit more once we uncover some of the abilities that kind of drive Devastation Evoker. Now, we also have something called Essence Burst. So we can basically generate this Essence Burst through two main spells, your Living Flame as well as your Azure Strike. So whenever you get this specific Essence Burst, well, let's just read them out here. So we have a red and a blue, basically. So your Living Flame has a 20% chance to cause an Essence Burst, make your next Disintegrate or Pyre cost no essence. And then we also have the blue version, Azure Essence Burst. Azure Strike has a 15% chance to cause an Essence Burst, making your next Disintegrate or Pyre cost no essence. So the question becomes, right, when do we use Pyre? When do we use Disintegrate? So you're going to use Disintegrate at 2 or less targets. You use Pyre at 3+ targets. So again, we're going to generate these Essence Bursts. Just that's something that you want to track. You have to make sure that you're not capping on those Essence Bursts because they're free damage. Okay, let's kind of reel it back in a little bit here and just kind of talk about some of like the basic spells that kind of drives Dev Evoker. So first up, we have our Azure Strike. This is just going to be a spell that you're going to be casting during movement for the most part. It's mainly just going to be a filler spell. And we did just talk about, right, how this can proc our Azure Essence Burst, but mostly you're going to be using Ruby Essence Burst over the Azure Essence Burst. It just fills into our rotation more. Living Flame. So just something to kind of keep in mind there. We also have our class buff, Blessing of the Bronze. It's going to give all of our party basically more movement. It's going to reduce the cooldown of a major movement ability by 50% for 1 hour. We also have our Deep Breath here. So we're running Flame Shaper at the moment, and Deep Breath is not as strong in Flame Shaper as it is in Scale Commander. It's still strong. Again, it's just not as strong as, in Scale Commander. And you're going to be using this in AoE scenarios. We also have our Disintegrate. This is going to use 3 essence, and this is going to be one of our main essence spenders during single target 1 to 2 target cleave scenarios. Skipping down a little bit more, we have our Fire Breath, and you're going to be using this spell in combination with your Engulf. So let's read out Fire Breath. So this is going to be an empowered spell. You're going to charge it up, and the longer that you charge it, the more upfront damage that it will do. And this can actually stack to 5 tiers. It says 4 right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, but we're actually taking Fauna Magic here, which will allow you to increase that to 5. So all of our empowered spells will go up to 5 instead of 4, and they charge up 20% faster. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to Fire Breath before we press our Engulf, because the way that Engulf works, we'll read it out. Engulf your target in Dragon Flame, damage him for X amount of fire, or healing them for X amount. For each of your periodic effects on the target, effectiveness increased by 50%, max 2 charges. So we have 2 spells that we can kind of beef up with Engulf. So we have our Fire Breath, and we also have our Eternity Surge here as well. So our Eternity Surge is going to put like a slow effect on the target, and that slow effect will translate into damage through Engulf as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit more, but you're kind of using Eternity Surge and Fire Breath in front of your Engulfs. Moving through the list, we have our Fury of Aspects. Coordinate this ability with your group. You're going to get a 10-minute debuff. However, this will increase haste for your entire party by 30% for 40 seconds. So, one of the strongest buttons in the game, essentially. Be very careful with it, again, because your entire group's going to get that debuff, and you will not be able to use, nobody will be able to use a Lust effect for 10 minutes, even though it's a 5-minute cooldown. So, again, be careful with it. We have our Hover, our Landslide. These two are mainly going to be used for mobility more than anything. Well, I guess not really Landslide, but that's just like a root effect, essentially. We have our Living Flame. So mainly in AoE, you want to use this with a specific proc. And that proc here is called Leaping Flame. So Fire Breath causes your next Living Flame to strike 1 additional target per empower level. So if we charge our Fire Breath up to 5, right, now our Living Flame is going to turn into an AoE spell and hit 5 targets. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to cover on this side for now. We have some other stuff that we could talk about. Most of this is utility. Let's get over to the Devastation tree over here on the right. And this is going to be some of our core spells. So we talked about Engulf. We talked about Eternity Surge. We also have Dragon Rage, which is going to be a big AoE cooldown for us. So this is actually going to be your main cooldown. So let's read it out. For 18 seconds, Essence Burst chance to occur is increased by 100%, and you gain the maximum benefit of your Mastery Giant Killer. Giant Killer's over here on the right. We're going to do more damage based on the current health of the target. More health, more damage, gonna basically allow us to burst more. So one thing that's really nice about this spell is we can actually extend its duration through Animosity here. So casting an empowered spell extends the duration of our Dragon Rage by 5 seconds up to a maximum of 20 seconds. So we can basically get the 18-second duration plus 20 seconds, and we can get 38 total seconds in our Dragon Rage. So it's very important to make sure that your Fire Breath as well as your Eternity Surge are both going to be ready to go before you press Dragon Rage. That way you can get that quick extension on this spell. So we'll get into the rotation stuff here in a minute, but typically what it's going to look like is a Dragon Rage into a Fire Breath, into an Eternity Surge, and then into 2 Engulfs. So yeah, we'll talk about that here in a minute. Another cooldown that we have is our Firestorm, 20-second cooldown. So an explosion that bombards a target, dealing a whole bunch of damage. So this is actually a proc as well. So we can go into our talents down here and we can see that we're running Snapfire. So we have a chance for this to proc and be able to instantly cast our Firestorm. And it will not incur its cooldown, and it'll do 100% increased damage. So whenever you do get a Snapfire proc, just make sure that you're using that on your Firestorm. And then, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think we talked about everything else. We did skip over a couple things. We have not talked about Shattering Star. So Shattering Star is essentially going to grant you Essence Burst for free. And it's also going to increase the damage that it take from us by 20% for 4 seconds. So you can use your Shattering Star in a lot of situations to buff up your Fire Breath and just Star and then Fire Breath, and you'll get a lot of that benefit that Shattering Star gives us. Another thing that we did skip over is Tip the Scales. So compress time to make sure your next empowered spell cast instantly, and it's at its maximum empower level, So what we can do is we can press Tip the Scales, and then we can press our Fire Breath. And basically it's going to be cast instantly and at its maximum empower rank. So a lot of the times you can use this in your opener to get a big burst of damage out. So we'll take a look at the opener really quick, and you guys can see the spells that I cast down here in the bottom left. If you want to kind of track the order that we're pressing these buttons in. So since this is a beginner's guide as well, what I typically like to do is just kind of show the opener, and then we just kind of lean a little bit more on the single target button assist. If you're not sure what the single target button assist is something that's just added in WoW. It's up here in the bottom right, and these specific spells are going to be added in your single button assist if you hover over it. And you can see as I'm hovering over it, these spells over here kind of start to glow, so you can kind of see what's included in it and what's not. So the single button assist is not great for openers, but it is really good, in my opinion, for like your base rotation. So typically what I recommend is follow an opener like I'm about to show you, and then just kind of rely on the single button assistant. And you can kind of optimize the single button assistant and kind of wean off of it a little bit as you get more used to your rotation. But to start out, I would just focus on an opener and a single button assistant, which will update for both single target and AoE. So that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to rely on that a little bit to help us out and kind of show that base rotation. One thing I do want to talk about too before we get into that is on your Fire Breath, you're either going to be casting it at rank 1 or you're going to be casting it at max rank. And that completely depends on if your Engulf is ready here, which is on the 4. So if Engulf is ready, we're going to max rank Fire Breath. If it's not, then we're just going to rank 1 Fire Breaths. And then another thing is your Eternity Surge is always going to be at rank 1. It'll never be higher than that. We're just trying to get that periodic effect on for our Engulf. Right, so when you are relying on that single button rotation helper, just know, in certain situations you're doing max rank, in certain situations you're doing rank 1. That's not very obvious when using the single button helper. Okay, so we'll take a look at the opener here. So we're going to go into a deep breath, into a Firestorm, into a Shattering Star, then a Dragon Rage, then a Tip the Scales, a max rank Fire Breath, a rank 1 Eternity Surge, and then we're going to Engulf twice. And then now we're going to go into our single button helper, right? And that's going to get those pyres out for us. It's going to get some Living Flames cast for us. It's just going to kind of loop through your main base rotation. So not too much to cover with that. Just kind of go through the spells that it suggests Typically, you're going to be building and spending with essence. You're going to be dropping that essence on pyres, and you're going to be setting up big engulf windows with Fire Breath and Eternity Surge. So we just briefly take a look at it. It is a little clunky with empowered spells, I will say. I'm not sure if it was really intended. Sometimes my Eternity Surge will like not go off. Let's just take a look at it, right? We can rank 1 Fire Breath, which is to Living Flame. Spend Essence with Pyre. And Engulf. Rank 1 Eternity Surge, Pyre to spend Essence. This one is to spend our Leaping Flame proc. And, you know, so on and so forth. So, okay, that's going to be it for this video. I just wanted to kind of go over some of the basics of Devastation Evoker. I didn't want to get too lost in, like, priority and things like that. I just wanted to kind of showcase what you're looking to do, especially playing as Flame Shaper, and how you can take their opener and kind of funnel that into a single target button assistant to kind of get you started playing the spec. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.